All right. We're here. We're live. There's people watching us.
Excellent.
Yay!
Yay.
I think everybody was saying synchronized swatches for 6 p.m. Friday, March 28th. So that was the fun line that we had going on the channel. So hi everybody, my name's Natalie from my so-called Gen X life. I am joined tonight by the amazing Corin Nemec, who we all know from Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Yay! I wish I had some sound effects for some applause.
Yeah, there's my
There you
dog
go.
barking. He'll give us some sound effects.
So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I super appreciate it. We're gonna ask you some questions from my subscribers. We're gonna watch some old clips and just kind of talk about what you got going on and things like
Excellent.
that.
Excellent.
Awesome. So let's just go back to the beginning because that's a very good place to start.
All
I
right.
heard, I heard that you got into acting, I guess, because of your dad and a movie that he worked on that was like one of the most iconic Gen X movies ever. So I'd love to hear the story about that, about how you got into acting and why.
Yeah, well, it was I was inspired to become an actor by the film Goonies, which my father was assistant art director on, and he was a big part of the design of the interior of the cavern and the ship, and the
Oh,
that
neat.
whole entire thing was a lot of his work. And I was living in Atlanta at the time when the movie came out, with my mom and my sister. She was a graphic designer for the Nederlander company, which owned the Fox Theater there and the Pantages Theater out in Los Angeles,
Oh,
and a
nice.
bunch of other theaters all across the U.S.
Yeah.
And she had put in for a transfer from the graphic design department in Atlanta to the one in Hollywood, and she got that transfer because she was very talented.
Yeah.
And we ended up moving to Los Angeles. The pretty much around almost the same year that the movie came out, and I was really inspired by that film because I had been on sets with that my father was working on, and I had been backstage at productions that my mom was working on and stuff, and I was really interested in the arts and entertainment business.
Hmm.
Um, I think previous to wanting to become an actor, I kind of saw myself in the design world, like my mom and my father were in. But once that movie came out, I knew what it was like to be on set. I knew what wardrobe was. I knew what sets were looked like and all of
That's
that.
amazing.
And I just knew how much fun they must have had
Right.
during the production. So I really was determined to have that experience as a young kid. And I moved to Los Angeles, and I was in oddly enough, a graphic design class in eighth grade at Walter Reed Junior High in Studio City, North Hollywood area. And one of my classmates was a young actor named David Van Gorder, who was very well known at the time for being in the Van Halen music video "Hot for Teacher," where he played
Okay.
Waldo,
Nice.
the young nerdy student who had the hots for his teacher.
I
And
love that.
I had expressed to him my desire to get into acting, and he suggested that I come and audit an acting class that he was in called Center Stage LA. The artistic director was Kevin McDermott. And fortunately for me, Center Stage LA was one of the hottest young acting workshops for kids in the industry, for young adults. The age range was between 12 and 17. There was nobody over 17
Oh,
in
wow.
the class. And it was a really wonderful class. A lot of improvisation we did in that class. I was actually for a short time, I was in a youth improv group called Off the Wall with other classmates,
Ooh, improv.
and we
That's tough.
performed around town. Yeah, it was great though. What
Yeah.
what it did for a young actor was get us. Um, it lessened our concern for what was on the page and got us into that world of play, and loosened us
Okay.
up, and because
That makes
um,
sense.
for a young actor who's just getting into, for any actor really just getting into it, there can be a certain amount of stress and pressure for memorization and creating a character and doing all the things you're supposed to do
Right.
as it's written. but to let go of all of that and just be in the world of make believe and performing and creating characters and having fun while you're at it was the biggest part of it. So he did a lot of improvisational exercises and then would apply that to our scripted material that we were doing. So even
Gotcha.
when we would memorize a scene, he would ask us, okay, now that you've rehearsed the scene, we know you know your dialogue and everything, forget the dialogue, forget everything, just be the characters. And if you say one of your lines of dialogue while you're doing this performance, that's fine or whatever, but just go from the beginning to the middle to the end,
Right.
figure out your way there, but just relax, don't worry about what you're supposed to say and all of that. And it was a wonderful way to just get us, into that world of make believe.
Right.
And within about 6 months of being in the class, I did my first showcase for agents and managers, and
Oh, wow.
I signed with an agency right away called Abrams, Rubaloff and Lawrence, and
Wow.
my first audition was for a Suzuki motorcycle commercial that aired during the 1986 Super Bowl,
Oh,
and by Paul Ventura Casting, and I got the job, and it was
wow. That's
yeah, it was
impressive.
really rad. So and from there, I just kept working. I just kept scoring, one job after another. Obviously, I didn't get as many jobs as I auditioned for. No actor does.
Well, who does?
But,
Yeah.
but it was within that first, I guess maybe even 6 months of acting that I landed the role of Noble Tucker in the film Tucker, A Man in His
Right.
Dream, playing Jeff Bridges' middle son there,
Yeah. That's a Coppola
based on
movie,
the
wasn't
true
it?
story. Yeah, Francis
Yeah.
Ford Coppola directing. And
Yeah.
what a cast! It was an incredible experience to work on such a high end film that was
Mhm.
so artistically motivated,
Right.
and
What an
that was just,
experience.
yeah, that was
Mhm.
a great experience. And once I did that film, I started auditioning for bigger and better roles, and
Right.
was kind of in a smaller pond, so to speak,
Right.
than I was previous to that performance.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that
Man, you
was great.
had a quick start and got right into it and then just kept
Yeah,
going. There was no
totally.
struggle.
Totally. I mean, right after that, right, I mean, before the movie even came out, I got offered the role of Nikki Papadopoulos on the final season of Webster, playing
Yes,
Webster's live-in cousin.
I remember
And
that.
yeah, me and him shared a bedroom, and we didn't share a bed, we just
No.
shared a bedroom. And it was hilarious. I had a good time working with him. Mam and George were a bit difficult, I must say,
Really, Mam
but
and George were difficult. Well, they were married in
yeah.
real life, right? They
They were
were
divorced at that
oh, they were
time.
divorced by
So,
then. I didn't
yeah, so
realize
you can
that.
imagine what it was like on set. It
Oh
was
my
not a pleasant
gosh.
divorce.
Oh, no.
But
Oh,
yeah,
no.
so from there, things just kept I just kept working. After Webster, I did the Eddie Murphy TV special, What's Alan Watching? I played the title character in that with Fran Drescher and
Oh
Peter
my
Michael
gosh.
Getz and Barbara
Oh, no.
Barry, and a great. I mean, there was a huge cast in that. Obviously, Eddie Murphy was in it as well, and that
Wow.
was that was a great role, great performance. I really had to fight for that role. I think I went back for like 6 callbacks and auditioned
Oh,
against
wow.
every other actor in LA that had
Yeah,
more credits than me, and I fortunately landed it. It's a,
but
it's
you
a
got
great,
it.
yeah, it's great. And then I know my first name is Steven shortly after that. So I
Yeah,
was bouncing between comedy and drama, which was very important to me to be able to be flexible in that way and not to get
right.
typecast. But
Sure.
uh, so I know my first name is Steven, garnered me an Emmy nomination at 16 years
Yes.
old.
Yes, I
And
was gonna
then,
talk about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was big. Yeah, it
Did
was,
you
it
go
was
to the Emmys? Did you go to
I
the
did. I was at
you
the
did?
Emmys that year. I went to the Emmys the following year as well, but just as a voyeur.
Yeah.
But
That's cool. That was like the height of the awards shows back in the late '80s and early
we'll
'90s when it
watch
became a big
them.
deal. People watched them. Yeah, people cared.
It was very cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of I Know My First Name is Steven, for my audience, for Gen Xers, that is a movie that has stuck with us for 35 years. I mean, people still
Yeah.
talk about that to this day. Do you get people asking you about that or talking about that movie at all still, or is it kind of one that's you
No,
don't really want to talk
just
about?
like you said, it was very impactful at the time. I mean, I don't know what other miniseries has ever gotten as big of a rating that had. It had a 48% share on the Nielsen
Right.
ratings back then, which meant that 48% of the viewing audience in America that had Nielsen boxes were all
Right.
watching that miniseries. And that's unheard of, to have almost 50% of the entire country watching
Right.
one program at once. It's like watching the Super Bowl,
Yep,
So
exactly.
it was a massive success. It really was really big for me. Did a lot for my career,
Right.
and really launched me as a dramatic actor as well.
Right.
So that was a big deal for me. It was a tragic story, as
Oh my
anybody who's
gosh.
familiar with it knows.
Yes.
Uh,
It was
and
terrible.
yeah,
And
and unfortunately a true story.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, I actually have a news report from that time with when they were making it's actually from Entertainment Tonight when you were making it, and we want to watch that for a minute if you don't mind. Would you
Sure.
like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see
yeah.
that?
Go ahead. Yeah, that'll be
You're
wild.
yeah, this is let's see here. Hold on. Let me get it up. Alrighty. Here we go.
Maybe some kid out there that's missing will see it and come forward and make an attempt to go home.
The real-life ordeal of a kidnapped child held captive for 7 years comes out of the shadows and into prime time. The inside story on Entertainment Tonight for Thursday, April 20th, 1989.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Mary
that hair.
Hunt.
And I'm John Tesh. Kidnapped at age 7, held
lot of
captive
hairspray.
for 7 years, and when he returned home, even adjusting to life with his parents became an ordeal. Now the bizarre story of Stephen Stainer is coming to television. That's our inside story for today. In 1972, 7-year-old Stephen Stainer was kidnapped while on his way home from school in Merced, California. For the next several years, he was forced to live as the son of his abductor, a previously convicted sex offender named Kenneth Parnell, and he did so until he managed to escape 7 years later. His emotional return home to an overjoyed family in 1980 made national news, and his subsequent testimony in court helped put Parnell behind bars in the state penitentiary. Now, 17 years after his long ordeal began, the extraordinary story of Stephen's life during and after this traumatic experience is the subject of an upcoming miniseries. The two-part drama is called I Know My First Name is Stephen. It stars Corin Nemec as the teenage Stephen, and Beverly Hills cops John Ashton and St. Elsewhere Cindy Pickett as his parents. For them, this was a story that just had to be told.
It brings a tear to almost everyone. It's just the fact that a human being can be a child, can be cruelly dehumanized like this. And it's moving to everybody.
I'm really, really pleased to be associated with it. And I think it's a fascinating story. And if it wasn't true, I don't think anyone would believe it.
Hop in, son. The preacher here, he'll drive you home.
The story, in fact, is remarkable. Abducted and convinced by his captor that his parents no longer wanted nor could afford him, Stephen lived a life of constant fear and was routinely sexually abused. He was forced to call his kidnapper Dad, and outwardly seemed to have a normal life.
Happy Valentine's Day. This is your new little brother.
But at 14, when Parnell brought home another 5-year-old kidnapped victim, Stephen took the child, and together they escaped from their rural captivity and went to the police.
You say he looks just like you did at age 14?
Basically, yeah.
Now 23, Steve is married with 2 kids and looks forward to a career in law enforcement. During the filming of the miniseries, he even had an opportunity to portray a police officer.
That's so sad because like a few months later, he died.
The
Did
night before the Emmys was the night of his motorcycle wreck. He was hit by
really?
a drunk driver. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
tragic,
gosh. So
tragic.
did you get to see, so you got to talk to him before, like while you were making the movie, and you got, like, how did you prepare for a role like that, especially at
Well,
such a young age?
yeah, I didn't meet up with him previous to starting filming. I got to meet him on set and whatnot.
Mhm.
The script was extremely well written.
Yeah.
But I did work with an acting teacher named John Len, who was fantastic. He was absolutely an incredible teacher, and we went deep into the script and rehearsed
Mhm.
every single scene and just did all the backstory that was necessary, and really got me so well prepared for that
Yeah.
once I was on set, there was such a limited amount of pressure and stress on me, because there was so much to be done in that production.
Right.
But John Len was just a fantastic teacher, and an incredible actor himself. It's too bad that he didn't have a much bigger career as an actor. He was in a lot of old movies in the '60s and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Wow.
it was just that's what got me ready for it, was working
Right.
with him.
Did you meet Steven's brother?
No, I did not. I don't think he was around on
Okay.
set at all. That is just a bizarre turn of events.
Bizarre
Very
story.
creepy.
Yeah,
Very
like,
creepy.
just randomly crazy, just absolutely crazy. But that's a sad, sad story. Let's do something more fun.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the
You
timeline. It's like after Steven, after I did I know my first name is Steven, I ended up doing a really really cool sci-fi movie called Solar Crisis that flopped in the movie theaters,
Oh
unfortunately.
no.
But it had a great cast: Charlton Heston and Jack Palance and Peter Boyle and Tim Matheson, and just
Wow.
I can't even remember who else was in it. It was a great cast, and it was a really really big budget for the late 80s. It was
Mhm.
a 52 million dollar budget back
Wow, that
then,
was a big one
which
back
was,
then.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
giant. And I had a really great time. I was expecting big things from that, and it flopped.
Wah,
But
wah.
it's still a good movie. You guys can still go out there and see it. You can find it somewhere.
There you
Solar
go.
Crisis.
Solar
Uh,
Crisis. All right.
it's a
Maybe
great
we'll do a
sci-fi.
watch. We'll do a live stream watch in the future. We'll all get together and
Right
watch
on.
that one
Right on.
and talk about you.
But it wasn't long after that I got the offer for Parker Lewis,
That is
which
awesome.
which was a game changer for me in the early '90s there.
Yeah.
But at first, to be honest, I thought it was going to be a sitcom, and I had such a tough time working on Webster that I had
Right.
vowed internally that I would never do another sitcom as long as I
Really?
live. And when
Oh,
I got the offer for it, because I didn't audition for it, they really liked me because of my performance on What's Alan Watching, because the
oh,
creator Clyde Phillips had a deal over at CBS at the time, and he was writing Parker Lewis around the same time that I did What's Alan Watching, and he it didn't get picked up by CBS, so the rights reverted back to him, and
gotcha.
he later sold it to Fox. But his intention was to have, if it got picked up by CBS, was to have me play Parker Lewis back then. So when it got picked up
Oh,
by Fox, they came to me and offered me the role, which was huge. That was a really big deal. But I thought it was a
yeah.
sitcom, and I
Don't.
was like, nah. And
Right. No,
they're
thank
like,
you.
wait a second, here, we want to sit down with you. Let's explain to you. So I sat down with him and Lon Diamond and Robert. Oh gosh, why is this, Robert Lewis, who were
Yeah.
the three main writers and creators of the show and producers and whatnot. So they explained to me that it wasn't a sitcom; it was a single camera comedy, and
Right.
it was going to be shot in the same vein as a movie called 3 O'clock High that starred Casey Shamosko that came out in the
Yep.
late '80s, and it was 3 O'clock High. I loved that movie. The camera was a character in it.
Right.
There was so much done to tell the story with the camera that and when they explained that was the cinematic style that they were going to go for with Parker Lewis, I was like, where do I sign?
Yeah, you were sold.
Let's absolutely, I totally get it
Yeah,
now.
they didn't do a lot of single
uh,
camera stuff back then as far as Like,
not half hour.
yeah,
Not
not
half
half hour.
hour.
Yeah.
No, I think we were. I mean, yeah, no, there wasn't any that I can think of right offhand.
Me neither. Yeah. And I mean, that was Parker Lewis was such a big show for people my age, you know, I think I was 13 or 14 when that show came out. And oh my God, we watched it every week. We were so sad. But what I love about Parker Lewis is that the show came at a time that's a very unique time in like our history, as far as it was right before the internet, it was right before computers, it was right before cell phones, and you're in high school, but there was still a lot of tech involved, the tech of the time. But it was
Yeah.
just, you know, it captures this moment that just, you know, is so unique in my opinion, as far as high school goes. And boy, your clothes, your shirts were did you keep any of those? Do you have any Parker
I
Lewis
wish I did
souvenirs?
now, you know, for nostalgic sake,
Right.
but no, I didn't. I did have a great time picking them out though. It was like I can't remember, like maybe every 4 to 6 weeks or so, they would bring in a new lineup of like 60 shirts or something, and I'd go through and pick the ones that I liked best, and those would go into the lineup.
Nice.
I'm not sure if I ever wore the same shirt twice, to be honest.
I
Um,
don't remember seeing like we always had a new outfit. You were always styling.
yeah. I modeled the character kind of after you know, the hip hop scene back then. You know, I
Yep.
was dressing with the really wild pattern shirts buttoned all the way to the top. I had
Yep.
sort of a white boy version of a high top fade, and
Yeah,
you know,
you
like
did.
it was more of a pompadour. But
Right. Were you
and
rapping around that time? Or was that
I
later?
that well, I was, but I didn't. I did do a an album that never came out with a group
Okay.
that I was working with called Starship of Fools. I recently found our old music and put it
Ooh,
out on SoundCloud and BandLab. So if
really?
you have SoundCloud or BandLab, you can search Starship of Fools
Starship
with a
Fools.
Z at the end.
Oh,
Fools,
yeah, definitely, of course.
FOOLZ. And I think both of my stations there are I am Corin Nemec, just like on Instagram
Yeah.
or Facebook or X or wherever.
Right.
The letter I, the letter M, and then my name. But yeah, you can go and listen to it. It's pretty cool. It was that we definitely the group I was working with. It wasn't me like a solo act. I had other rappers that I was working with. One of them was actually Shane Mooney, the son of the great comedian Paul Mooney.
Okay.
And yeah, he was one of the rappers in the group. There were three of us, and then Balthazar Getty was our DJ at the time, and
Oh,
also produced
nice.
quite a bit of our music. He was incredible for being so young. I mean,
Right.
it actually holds up, strangely
Really?
enough.
I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to check that out. Definitely. Now you were on Parker Lewis in the early 90s, right when your good friend David Faustino was on Married with Children. Did you guys meet back then, or how did you guys meet
I
and get
met him
together?
before I started on Parker Lewis, actually, because
Yeah.
there was this, you know, the Hollywood scene back then was very small in comparison. And there was a lot of like events that we would all do, you know. The Special Olympics event was something I did like every single year. And
Yeah.
then there was other charity events, that the AIDS walk every year. I was doing that, and he was always at those. And we also hung out with some of the same crowd, so we ended up together. There was this this youth discotheque type thing called Alfie's Soda Pop Club that was going on back then, that all the
Right.
young actors hung out at.
I've heard of that.
And we got to, yeah, there's a dark story behind that place, but we
Yeah.
won't get
Yeah.
into it.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
But so you know, we had already known each other, and then when we ended up on the same network together, that was a lot of fun. We got to see each other quite a bit, and obviously he was doing that club Ballistics around that same time period too.
Mhm.
That the hip hop club. I didn't go to
Right.
Ballistics very often, but I did just do an interview for the documentary that he's putting out about Ballistics.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, when you know, it was a great time to be on Fox. There was some wonderful events that we got to do. I did a lot of traveling and promotion for the show.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I didn't want to lose was, you know, my notoriety as a dramatic actor too. So every hiatus, instead of just like partying my days off, I would go do a dramatic movie of the week every hiatus. So the first hiatus I
That's
did one
smart.
called For the Very First Time, which was starring opposite Cheryl Pollack, who also played my love interest in What's Alan Watching years before. She was my love interest in that as well. And Machen and Mick was in that, and there was some other great actors. But so I did that one for the first hiatus, and then the second hiatus I did another very dramatic movie of the week called My Son Johnny, that was based on a true story. Me and myself and Rick Schroeder starred in that, along with Michelle Lee, who played our mother in it. It was based on a true story about a brother who was very, very abusive to his younger brother, and his younger brother ended up killing him in in self-defense, but
right,
you
but
know,
you
in
get
that
dramatic.
sense,
Whoa.
and it was there was a he ended up getting off on self-defense charges, but it was looking like he could potentially go to jail for life after having suffered, abuse at the hands of his brother for his whole life.
Oh my gosh.
It was very heavy story.
Very heavy. That
Yeah,
is,
and then the third hiatus, which unfortunately turned out to be the long hiatus, I lined up a wonderful movie of the week, a sci-fi movie called Life Force Experiment with Donald Sutherland.
Ooh.
And it was great to work with him, and a really heavy project as well for me as an actor. It was a pretty intense role, but so I just kept that going. And then after I did the Life Force Experiment, I ended up on the miniseries The Stand. Playing Harold Lauder, and that miniseries, man, what a blast! I mean, 5.5 months in Utah, in Salt Lake City, was interesting.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask, because I used to live in Orem, like right where you shot all of that, and it's a great area.
Yeah, it was. Salt Lake City is back. I mean, I guess back in the early '90s. I don't know what it's like now, but it was a strange place, man.
Well, yeah,
I'll have to say
it's very heavily Mormon.
yeah, which is fine.
Which is totally great, but
it's
just a different culture. It's just
different
a different
vibe.
A different world, but it was an interesting place to be. So you had an incredible cast in The Stand, and
Totally.
you had some Gen X legends with Molly Ringwald and Rob Lowe, and you got to, and then you got to work with Gary Sinise and all that. What incredible experience. So how did you get cast in The Stand? Did they seek you out, or did you audition?
No, I auditioned for that, and I was oddly enough, I also was like just getting over the flu, which I rarely ever got sick. In my life, I still to this day rarely ever get sick, but I got hit hard by it, and I had this big audition for this miniseries, and Stephen King and Mick Garris directing it. And I remembered that I had auditioned for Mick Garris for the movie Sleepwalker. And I was like, I thought I just nailed Sleepwalker. I was like, this role is mine. And I didn't get it. And I was like, what did I do wrong?
Oh,
no. And it turns out that it was my audition in Sleepwalker that made Mick really believe that I could do this performance in The Stand, because the only reason I didn't get the job in Sleepwalker is because I was too thin. and very strange was the breakdown for The Stand. When I read the character breakdown, this somewhat overweight, heavy set, pimple faced guy, I was like, oh, here we go. I'm going to go audition for Mick Garris and another Stephen King project and not get the role again because I'm too thin, But I really understood who this character was, and Stephen King himself was like fighting Mick Garrison about bringing me in to audition me. He was like,
really?
No, this guy's totally wrong. But fortunately for me, they had auditioned a bunch of actors who fit the character description, the physical description.
Right.
And they had auditioned. From what Mick told me, they auditioned actors in LA, in Miami, in New York, in Chicago, even in San Francisco, whatever. Apparently they went, maybe they just wanted to travel around and have a good time, on
Right.
the dime of the network. But they didn't find anybody that Steven or Mick felt like, got the character, understood
Right.
the character. And the character also goes through a bit of a transition, even in the book, where he kind of slims down a bit or whatever.
Right.
But I went in and I auditioned for it, and unbeknownst to me, as soon as I walked out of the audition, Mick and Steven had a very quick discussion, and Mick was like, "See, I told you he could do it." And he was like,
Yeah.
"You're right. Okay, you're right. He totally gets the character." And
Yes.
so I got
Fantastic.
cast, very quickly for that, and I was beyond stoked because it was my first time playing not just kind of a villain, but more of a character actor role.
Right.
It was like something so outside the box for the other
Right.
performances I played, like, the lead actor who's the victim, who's all, distressed and all this, or the lead actor who's like, hey, the cool guy in school
Right.
and whatever. It was my chance to play the quirky, odd, darker character.
Right.
And it was a career changer for me. I got to play a lot more offbeat roles later on after that.
Right.
Even in movies of the week, like one called Blackout, that was I got to play a really interesting character in that, and Summer of Fear, I played like the distraught, weird son who was kind of disowned by his father and wanted revenge and all this, and
Right.
then later on playing roles like what was it, the Bundy, American Icon, playing Ted
Oh yeah,
Bundy.
you played Bundy.
Yeah, playing Ted Bundy, and then in Richard Speck, Chicago Massacre, playing Richard Speck, and
Get a little dark here,
other-
Corin. Jeez.
Yeah, well, I don't think I would have gotten any of those roles had I not played
Right.
Harold Lauder in The Stand. And
Really?
yeah, I don't think so. I think
Huh.
that I mean, I think some of my other dramatic roles would certainly help, but I think that The Stand sort of put me into a different category, that I appreciate very much. And
Right.
then after The Stand, it wasn't, I ended up doing Drop Zone with Wesley Snipes within a couple of months of finishing up The Stand. And then not long after Drop Zone, I was in Operation Dumbo Drop
Yep.
with Ray Liotta, God bless him, and
Aw.
Danny Glover and Dennis Leary. And oddly enough, Danny Glover was one of I was in competition with him for the Emmy nomination back in the day. He was one of the people, him and Armand Asante and
Who won? Who won that Emmy? Do you remember?
I'd have to look it up. I don't recall.
I don't remember.
But it was pretty cool to be, I think at the time I was the youngest actor ever to be nominated for an Emmy at
awesome.
that time. So that was pretty cool.
What a great experience.
But
Was The Stand your first experience with like love scenes? Because I know you had one with Laura San Giacomo. Was that your first?
That wasn't necessarily a love scene.
Oh, well, I mean, you know what I mean. You got a little saucy.
Me and Cher, when I in for the very first time, I had a pretty sweaty scene with Cheryl Pollack.
Okay.
Who a lot of people were jealous of at the time, but it wasn't. It was a movie of the week for CBS or whatever, so you couldn't push it too hard,
right?
But I did have to wear that body stocking, which was pretty hilarious.
Good times. There were no intimacy coordinators on set back then or anything to protect you.
No, thank God. Thank God. Who needs that?
Right. What a stupid thing. Hollywood is.
I don't know. Maybe it's okay for some movies, like 9.5 Weeks probably needed one.
Maybe, yeah. But I love that. Was it "Don't mess with my disco, Nadine"? I love that scene.
Don't screw with my disco.
Don't screw with my disco.
That was the actual line of dialogue. I was doing these. Let me see if I can turn this light down a little bit here. I was doing these autograph signings and stuff like that, and when people would ask for autographs for Harold Lauder, I was about to write "Don't screw with my disco," but it was like the guy was there with his young kid and all of that, and so I was like, "Don't mess with my disco," and I started writing that all the time, and I forgot what the real line of dialogue was. And then I was like at a convention like years later, and I wrote "Don't mess with the disco," and the guy looked at it and he goes, I thought the line was "Don't screw with my disco," and I was like, you know what? You're right. Give me that back. There's the real line.
I actually have the scene pulled up. I gotta watch it because it's my favorite. I love it so much. Here we go. Don't screw with my disco, Nadine. I love this. Hold on. Oh, wrong one. That's when you flew and died. Hold on. We're getting to the don't through with my disco.
The tragic turn of events.
Yes, tragic. That was quite the stunt. Did you do that stunt?
Hell no.
Harold. Harold. What the hell are you doing? Don't screw with my disco, Nadine.
There it is.
Is everything all right?
I love the pulling the glasses off. It was just so great. Don't screw with my disco, Nadine. For anybody that wants to watch this version of The Stand, it's available for free on YouTube, all 6 hours of it. So
wow,
yeah.
I guess I won't get any residuals for that.
I guess not. Probably not. Sorry. Did you watch the new one, the new Stand? The reboot? No. You didn't watch it?
No.
People were asking if you had, so I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I've been asked that a bunch of times. I just couldn't figure out why they would redo the miniseries. Why not go back and re-edit the original and put in all of the scenes that didn't make it, you know, and do the full. I mean, it turned out to be a 6-hour miniseries. They had eight or more hours of material. They could have just put in all of the cutout scenes, all of the stuff, you know, and they could have just re-released it, you know.
Right. That'd make more sense. Hollywood has gotten so obsessed with remaking and rebooting everything made in the 80s and 90s.
Hey, I'd like to, if I'm going to reboot something, I'd like to reboot Mr. Ed and play Wilbur.
There you go. I like it. That's a good one.
Thanks.
So, this is kind of a topic that I wanted to ask you about. What is your viewpoint on how the industry has changed? And like, I mean, you know, you've been in TV and movies, and it's like basically the industry is like unrecognizable compared to what it was back in the 90s. Am I right? Like, how is it from your perspective, this big weird change?
I mean, if you're represented by one of the larger agencies, it's probably a gravy train because they have all of the packaging and for all the series and everything else, and they're very tight knit now. It's the way that the auditioning process works is pretty dreadful for actors today because everything is done digitally and submitted digitally, and
oh Lord,
so there's no personal interaction with anybody in the room. You don't get to have that moment that. So and not only that, because I know several casting directors pretty well, and you know, they just say that the amount of submissions that they get, because anybody can submit basically, like every agency out there, everybody can submit. And then, you know, so they have 3,000 or more submissions for a role, and what are they going to do? It's like they have submissions from Timbuktu, you know what I mean? They're like, what are we going to fly you in for this Lifetime movie? You live in Timbuktu,
right?
But it's unless you're, you know, currently unless you're with one of the big eight, which I'm not right now. I'm with a boutique agency, but if you're not with one of the big agencies, it's pretty tough because you would assume that there's more work than ever with all of these different platforms and all of the original series and everything else that's going on. But oddly enough, it's been even though I work consistently in comparison to most actors, my credit list on IMDb is still stays relevant, and you know, but I also switched over and started producing and writing and developing my own projects, which you wanted to talk about as well, which started me and David Faustino had started a production company together years ago, and we did a number of films with each other, like Killer Bud and RoboDoc with National Lampoon, and one other one, I can't remember what it was, and then we ended up selling a short-lived web series to Sony Television called Starving, which we kind of came up with the idea after seeing the two Corys series and all that, and
Right.
it had nothing to do with the two chords. We were like, dude, we should totally do a reality show, but like totally ham it up. Like, don't take it seriously. All this. So one of the shows we pitches was You're Not My Best Friend Anymore. And it was David Faustino and me. We lived together in a mansion, and he's upset with me and doesn't want to be my best friend anymore. So he's going to cast a new best friend in his life, and so he brings in all these dudes, to try and pick out a new best friend, and they all live at the mansion with him and me and all this stuff. And we had ridiculous scenarios that we were going to put them through, and if you were bad, you'd have to go live in this oversized doghouse in the backyard for the night and all this crazy stuff. And granted, nobody picked that up. We did pitch it to a lot of networks, and they're like,
it sounded good. It sounds good.
How about one of our ideas instead? We're like, we saw the two Corys. We're not going that route. So finally we came up, our buddy, our writing partner, Todd Bringawat, he was like, look, they're gonna ruin you guys' life with a reality show if they do one anyway. So why don't we ruin your lives for you?
Oh, there you go.
And we'll do the show Starving and as a mock reality show, and we'll just make the most fun of you guys that anybody could ever make, and don't. I think it was I forget which trade magazine it was. It was like the Variety or something. They said that we didn't just push the envelope, we shredded it.
I like that. Why did it only last one season? We wanted more episodes.
Well, there was a couple of reasons. One, we pretty much offended almost everybody at Sony Television with our content, and
it happens.
Yeah, and two, they accidentally gave us 40% ad rev on the show. And when they realized how much they were going to owe us with how many views the show was getting, they decided, you know what? We don't want to pay these guys that much. So let's just cancel the show.
And there you go. You could just put it on YouTube at this point and just go directly there and skip the middleman.
Yeah, well, you can't. It was all up on YouTube, but they pulled it. But I do have a secret Vimeo account with a few of the episodes up. If anybody wants to try and find it, you're welcome to. I only have like 7 out of 12 episodes posted right now.
Gotcha.
But,
I'm playing episode 3 right now, Straight Outta Compton, which is one of my favorites.
Straight Out of Compton. Yes, I go back to I take David to go see my old gang counselor from high school because he needs some therapy and he can't afford it.
It's so
hilarious.
Good.
It's hilarious.
It's so funny. I love it so much. Oh my!
He ends up getting mugged by my illegitimate children. They steal everything, including his clothes.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Well, yeah. Well, if you guys ever want to make another episode of that, we would love to see it because it is so funny.
Yeah, it was. It was honestly, I even laughed my ass off when I watched the episodes. I was like, I can't believe we're doing this to ourselves. We're never going to work again after this, Dave.
Right?
You realize that, right? So it might have been beneficial that they, especially because of everything that happened with people's senses of humor being lost from like 2010, 2012 on. And people are finally starting to come back around and be like,
I hope so.
Right, maybe Blazing Saddles was funny. But
absolutely it was.
I think that if that show had stayed on Crackle all throughout these years and we had done more episodes, because some of the episodes that we didn't shoot were, I can't even describe them on air right now.
I can't even imagine. I bet they got.
We had some outrageous ones that they're like, I think that some of the ones you are doing, this one is not going to be one of them.
That's not going to do it. Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, we had a great time making it, though. We had complete creative control. Sam Cass, who was a writer producer from Seinfeld and a bunch of other great shows, he was on our team of creatives, and the show was so controversial, even in the writing process, that we would come up with these scenarios that we would be laughing our asses off at. But then me and David would look at each other and realize, yeah, but I have to do that. And I'd be like, yeah, we'll leave that one out. And so it
Right.
became difficult to write. So we had to come up with a rule of thumb that since there was 4 of us in the right that were all writers on it, and we were all creating these episodes, that if it got 3 laughs, it stayed in.
It stayed in. That's a good rule.
And generally speaking, it always got 3 or more laughs when we were in the writing room. Everything did. We had so much fun writing this thing. It was just a blast. And had the one episode where we end up getting a pitch deal with the network Al Juhaida over in Afghanistan, and we fly over to Afghanistan to go pitch a series, and we end up getting roped in to do a series with Osama bin Laden.
Oh no!
Yeah, and then David spits on him, thinking that it was a cultural greeting over there, and so he swears a jihad against David, and we end up flying back home from Afghanistan without a deal.
No,
it was just outrageous stuff. Outrageous.
Oh my God, what a story. I love that. I love that you have been working pretty consistently since you started. And I love that you kind of avoided the whole 80s, 90s star downfall. Like you were able to kind of, keep working and stay out of trouble.
I think a part of that was, I was always into acting classes, and that kept me grounded a lot. After I was with Center Stage LA, and then I worked with John Lenn for a while, and then I was with Terrence Hines at his acting class, along with Brian Green and Stephen Dorff were over there with me at Terrence Hines. Okay. And then I studied with God, why is his name slipping my mind right now? He's a fantastic teacher, Larry Moss, at his studio during the time I was working on Parker Lewis. So even while I was on Parker Lewis, I was still going to acting class, on the side. Yeah. And but I ended up having to drop out because the schedule became so intense that I just didn't have time to prepare any roles or anything. So I basically I'd rush to class after I finished filming, and I'd get there and I didn't have anything prepared because I was too busy working. And so I would just sit there and just watch other people act. And I was like, so I stopped taking acting classes after the first season of Parker Lewis. And after the 3rd season, I felt like something was missing in my life. There was plenty of success and the money and all that stuff was going great. And I was like, but man, I just don't feel right. I feel I feel hollow, and my very good friend, Ernie Reyes Jr., who I had also done an episode of Sidekicks with back in the day with Gil Gerard. And he was in the Ninja Turtles movies and Surf Ninjas and all that stuff. Nice. And we actually went to real high school together too. But he was studying with this gentleman named Manu Tupou at the American Repertory Company in Hollywood. And I went and audited his class, and I was like, oh, this guy is the next level of brilliant. And I ended up studying there from the early 90s all the way till 2005, when he wasn't. He had diabetes, but it got out of control, and he ended up passing away, unfortunately, quite suddenly. And but I studied with him from 93, around 93, 94 until 2005, and I credit him with he was like, listen, you can't have. I started having kind of an ego about auditioning after Parker Lewis and all this other success and everything. Right. And I was kind of like, just not heavy, but I could feel that ego, was starting to try and push me in a different direction than the artistic side of me was used to going in. There was this sort of an inflated sense of self was percolating during that time period. And fortunately, I met Manu, and he shut that down real quick. And he was basically just said, listen, you have to be willing to audition, and you can't think of it as a job. You have to think of it as an opportunity to practice your craft. And that's it. Right. If you get the job, great. If you don't, you got to practice your craft, and you got to go in a room. You got to do what it is that you say you love to do, and practice and rehearse. Right. So, you know, when he explained that, like within I think it might have even been the first night I audited the class, he might have said something about that. And he also had, it was a very much a spiritual approach to acting. It wasn't, you know, he wasn't teaching a method of acting. He was teaching a way of life, you know, and he was the first person to introduce me to this idea that personality is malleable, and that the idea of who we are, it can, to a greater degree, be a totally false sense of self and a complete lie. Because he was very Buddhistic, and he was basically like, you know, there is nothing, there is no thing. So as an actor, you need to be no thing first, and then you can add the somethingness to nothing later on when you're developing these characters. So he would have us get this place called a 0 point, which we'd always start out doing these exercises in the beginning of these classes, creative exercises, a little bit of meditation and stuff, where we release all idea of self. Like, don't be who you think you are anymore. Be nobody. You know what I mean? And enjoy being nobody, because once you're nobody, then you have a blank slate, and you can add, then you can build a character based on that nobody, and add all of the elements of character that we get trapped in, where we suddenly become this idea of self and this character. And you know, I see it all the time. I won't name names, but there's certain actors out there who have become who they think they are, and they can't get out of it, you know?
I hear that. It sounds like you had like the power of a good male influence, and a good just is so important, and having a good mentor. Like, that's
he was. He changed my life for sure. In fact, my son's middle name is Manu now. So So I got to and he was born, my son was born the same year that Manu passed away, and I felt that it was really you know, important. And my ex-wife at the time, who we have another daughter with, who's wonderful, she didn't have any qualms whatsoever about me giving Lucas the middle name Manu, because you know, she knew how important that Manu was to me in my life, you know. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was magical, really magical. And my son's great too. He's a spiritual force as well. He's really interested in Eastern philosophy, and you know, I kind of think, like, is he the reincarnation of Manu, or what's going on here?
Kind of neat. How old is he?
He's 20.
20? You can't be old enough to have a 20-year-old kid. We're not old enough for all that, are we?
My daughter's 31 now. So
what? That doesn't even seem possible. We are not old enough to have children that age.
Tell me about it.
That doesn't seem right. Oh my gosh. I wanted to bring this up for you because this made me laugh, and I wanted to see your reaction to it. This was somebody posted on YouTube, the most 90s scene of all time, and it's from Parker Lewis. And it had me laughing, so I wanted to see what you said.
Let's see.
Shout Factory TV.
It was just a funny thing with all of the ridiculous 90s references and prices.
There's actually a great a couple of guys that are doing a show all about Parker Lewis. It's a rewatch show.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, Synchronize. It's what's the name of their Instagram channel? I follow them on Instagram. I'm not on YouTube as much as I used to be.
Yeah.
But that's where their show is at. But it's Swatches Pod. It's Swatches Pod, WSATCHES Pod.
Swatches Pod.
Yeah, Swatches Pod. And so you can look them up on Instagram. They show a bunch of clips from Parker Lewis and all that. I did an interview with them, and Troy Slayton, who played Jerry Steiner, did an interview with them recently, and they have their Swatches Pod on YouTube as well, if anybody is interested in checking it out. Yeah. And they just talk about all things Parker Lewis, and I got to tell, I love these guys. They're really great. Awesome. that they've kind of brought the show back in a way, you know, in a small way.
It's so much fun. Have you seen the Family Guy clip?
Oh yeah, man! What a blessing, dude! It's like It's like how they showed a clip of Parker Lewis on the new Dexter recently.
Oh, did they? I have
great.
not seen that yet. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to watch this. This made me. It's only 40 seconds long. This
Yeah.
is comedy
Oh,
at heart. I love
great.
it. Good times. Oh my goodness. Well, we have gone through about all the questions that all my people asked me to ask you. Is
Wow,
there
nothing on
anything
Stargate. That's incredible.
Oh, well, okay, hold on. I skipped the Stargate part. I'm so sorry. There is a whole thing right here that says Stargate. This is what happens when you write things on your notes and not organize yourself very well. All right, hold on. Stargate. Yes. That you popped in for one season pretty much, like you replaced the character and then you had to leave because the character came back or whatever, so that was an interesting experience. But wow, do you have a lot of fans for that show? So tell me
Yeah, it
about
was a
Stargate.
great. I had a great opportunity to come in and create a memorable character for the show.
Yeah.
That it was tough though, because it wasn't so much the producers and the writers and all of that stuff. The directors, they were all really gung ho about the new character coming on board and everything. Michael Shanks is a great guy. He had decided that 5 seasons was enough for him, that he wanted to move on and do some other things.
Right.
And the show was sold to Sci-Fi Channel at that point, and so they brought me on for the first season on Sci-Fi Channel. But Sci-Fi was getting, this is before any of the episodes that we shot for season 6 even aired, and they were getting so much hate mail. They were getting so much, we need Daniel Jackson. We need the original cast. This is garbage. No one's ever going to be able to replace him. I mean, I'm talking voluminous amounts of mail was coming in.
No.
That absolutely freaked them out. They were, the executives at Sci-Fi Channel, they were, to put it bluntly, crapping their pants. Because they were spending more money, per episode on that show. They had so much at stake. It was over $2 million per episode that they were spending, and it was frightening for them, to think that, just because of this cast change, this show may flop when it airs, and we're going to be stuck with, holding the bag here. But so the season 6 was originally supposed to be the final season for it, and they were going to do the spinoff show Stargate Atlantis. But behind the scenes, Sci-Fi Channel was renegotiating with Michael Shanks to bring him back on board, because they were worried that they might lose their ass on season 6, and they needed to do more seasons of Stargate, to make up for what might have been a devastating loss for them. But so before the show, my episodes even aired, they were already working a deal to bring him back into the show.
Oh my God.
And then obviously then the show started airing, and people were like, "Oh, I like him."
Yeah.
And then the season did very well for Sci-Fi Channel. It did really, really great. But by the time all the episodes that aired, they'd already renegotiated with Michael Shanks to bring him back as the series regular that he was before, and my character got written out, and then they kicked the can down the road on Stargate Atlantis by a year or so. And Jonas Quinn was originally supposed to roll into Stargate Atlantis, but then by the time they circled back to do Stargate Atlantis, they were like, we're gonna do a whole new cast. So it was great for me in many ways, but it also could have been even bigger for me, had the character not been used and abused the way he was.
They wouldn't have panicked and tried to, go back to the original cast. They shouldn't have panicked. They should have let it go. You did great. That sucks.
But it was awesome though, because I had no idea about the Stargate universe, the amount of fans. I didn't know anything about sci-fi conventions all over the world and all of these things. I had never done anything like that in my life.
Really?
And so next thing I know, I'm being flown all over the world doing these Stargate conventions. I'm going to, I was down in Australia over the years. I went to Australia like probably 26 times to different conventions in different towns there. Went
Really?
all over the UK and all over Europe, and
Neat.
to just all these different sci-fi conventions and collector conventions and all this stuff. I'm going to France again coming up soon.
That's so cool.
That just because of, I mean, I have notoriety in France for a bunch of other projects too, but Stargate is still, it's such a, fans just love it, and my character, fortunately for me, was very well received, especially internationally, and it's kept me busy doing that as well in between gigs. I enjoy the travel, especially international, and I get to take my lovely wife with me now because I'm relatively newly remarried.
I was going to say you got married not too long ago, not too terribly long ago.
Yes.
Awesome.
And she's lovely. She's my favorite travel buddy.
Well, congratulations. That's great. I has hope that maybe I can find somebody in my, when I get my 50s, it's like you think all that stuff's in the past, but not always. It's good that you found a good person. I like that.
Yes, we both found each other right at the right time.
Perfect. I love it.
We get along very well. It's a lovely relationship.
Oh, that's great. And as for Stargate, you got to work with MacGyver, right?
Yeah, man. The cast. Over my career, I wish I had written down a list, because over my career, I've gotten to work with some.
You have
absolutely incredible actors, and it's just been what a wonderful journey. And and Stargate did open up a lot of doors for me. It got me starring in so many really mediocrely written B movies on Sci-Fi Channel. It just was, incredible. I got to fight all kinds of creatures from all types of different character roles. I love doing that too. I ended up producing a number of them as well, which was a lot of fun. Sand Sharks was one of them that that was pretty fun. That's why it turned out as funny and as well as it did, because I was one of the producers on that too, and we were able to strong arm the script and keep it a comedy, because they originally didn't want it to be a comedy. It was written to be a comedy, and they're like, "No, we don't want a comedy. You have to rewrite it." And we're like, "Yeah, I don't think so."
Yeah, right. Comedy.
Bring
back comedy.
It's gone great. It went over great, and then another one called Dragon Wasps, I was a producer on as well, and we really got to rework the script there and make it a lot of fun, and that one's always played well over the years too. And I enjoy, I don't look at it like, oh hell, this is some B movie, some bad sci-fi thing, whatever. It's like, it's an opportunity for me, just like I learned from Manu Tupo. It's an opportunity for me to practice my craft, to do what I love to do, and to bring a character to life. And that's how I look at every job, as that same opportunity. And I developed some great relationships with producers and some directors over all those years, and ended up with some of the production houses that I was doing those sci-fi movies with. They ended up rolling into doing all the the Lifetime channel thrillers, and all that. So I got into doing those, and I wrote a number of them and produced some, and starred in a bunch of them, and that was great. Actually, coming out more recently, just to wrap it up, there's a few. There's one that I wrote, produced, and starred in as well, called Deadly Justice, that you can see on Tubi now. And
Tubi, okay.
It's on some other platforms too. That's just the first one that rings a bell. And then one of the more recent movies that I had come out, that's just a great film, that was directed by Audrey Cummings. She's out of Toronto. David Lipper produced it, starring opposite Heather Graham and Tom Hopper from Umbrella Academy. If anybody's familiar with Umbrella Academy, Tom Hopper is one of the main characters in that too. But it's a wonderful Western. It's a thriller, it's kind of like what's that great movie about the writer who's held captive in the house by the crazy lady? Misery, yeah. It's like Misery meets Hateful Eight.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Actually, the cinematographer who did a lot of Quentin Tarantino's films also shot this. It's a great Western, highly recommended, called Place of Bones. So check out Place of Bones. Okay. There's one Western that I wrote. I'm not really in it, but I wrote it not that long ago. That came out early last year as well, called Dead Man's Hand, with Stephen Dorff and Cole Hauser and Jack Kilmer.
Oh, nice.
It was a lot of fun writing that. It was a great time. And then I have a bunch of films coming out. One called Myra that I just shot down in Tijuana recently. That'll be coming out later this year. Then there is what is the one that I just did with Harvey Keitel and Ron Perlman and Deacon Lockman? Joe Baby. Yeah, Joe Baby will be coming out at some point this year, and then there's like four. I just had another film come out recently that was a wonderful, very sad film, but a wonderful indie film that my brain is just fried now.
You're a busy guy. You have so much going on.
Yeah. I mean, I keep myself busy.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that I can't remember the name of this movie. It's a fantastic one. You have to go to my IMDb.
Okay.
But some great movies that have come out recently, and some great ones that should be coming out down the road. And I have some projects that I'm writing and producing currently that we should be up in production with this year, including kind of a Lifetime style thriller that's
nice.
that we'll be shooting in end of next month. And then the same company that Robert Fraser, who I've done a couple of films with, the one Myra I did down in Tijuana with him that's coming out later this year. I did one that came out roughly a year or so ago called Day Labor, which is a wonderful thriller. And we shot that together. And I have a script with him that I wrote that we're casting right now that we'll be shooting sometime this year as well. And I'm
so
keeping busy.
Wow.
Keeping it going, hustling.
I have one thing I wanted to ask you as a writer, producer, and an actor. What are your thoughts of AI coming into the industry and the use of AI? Are you a fan? Do you hate it? Do you think it has,
I don't know yet. I have I have one script that I wrote that is an animated film that is very interesting. It's all about kind of the monetary system, oddly enough. Even though it's a kids movie, it's
I'm
very
that kind of stuff.
It's a deep film. It's based on a book called Money Talks. That was written by Pastor Ron Johnson. His book is very non sequitur. It's a bunch of kind of small short stories that I had to thread a through line through and create a whole story out of it. But it's a very interesting film, and I had a conversation with a producing partner of mine about how we might be able to have AI animate the whole thing and see what that what that looks like. But I'm working with a company that does the characters, the turds. If anybody wants to go look up the turds, they're great. I've been working with that company in the development of Money Talks to go and pitch it and see if we can raise the necessary funds to produce it, because it's highly educational.
Mm-hmm.
It really, oddly enough, it sort of it pulls the curtain back on the monetary system in a very unique way.
This sounds amazing. This is right up my alley.
That people wouldn't really get, you know what I mean? Like the fiat currency and the value of collectible coins and gold and silver and all of these things, but in a very unique way.
Two of my favorite books are End the Fed by Ron Paul and Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah, I've read them both.
So great. So this is right on my alley of stuff that, oh man, I would love it. I hope we get to see that. That would be amazing. That's so cool. Well, anything else you want to tell us? You've already given us an hour.
You can catch up with me on on social media and whatnot, Facebook, Instagram, X, wherever. I don't post as much on YouTube, but I have some really cool videos and stuff there that I've done over the years that you're welcome to check out. A wonderful TV pilot that I created with Jason London, fellow actor and friend of mine, called Blackwater Blues, and that independently produced pilot is up there. It's really good. We're still actually shopping that. It's just it's tough. It's tough out there. But it's
Was
a
he the
great
one?
pilot. It's a great show, and it
Was
deserves
he?
to be a series.
Yeah. Was he the one in Dazed and Confused or in Mallrats?
Yeah,
I always get him.
exactly.
Okay, I
Yeah,
get him and
his brother was in
confused.
Mallrats.
Okay,
Yeah,
his
I was
brother was
just
in
hanging
Mallrats.
out with Jeremy today, actually, and we were
Oh my
doing
god,
some
those are two of my favorite movies of all time: Dazed and Confused and Mallrats.
yeah, totally.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much again. I really, really appreciate your time. This was an absolute blast,
You
and I
betcha.
really appreciate it. So thank you so much. I guess I'll see you
Absolutely.
later.
Hasta
I'll
la
see you all
vista,
next.
baby.
Okay, bye. What do you think, guys? That was so great. He is so cool. I'm so sorry I didn't get to more of your questions. I actually went through your questions on my earlier post, and that's how I was asking all that stuff. So, yay! I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was the first time like I've really interviewed someone like on this channel and had to do it myself with all the production and the trying to pull up the clips and read the comments and do all that stuff. So, oh my goodness. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh man. Ooh, I was kind of nervous for all of that, right? I think he's one of the like when I was younger, when I worked in television news, I would interview athletes and things like that, but I don't think that I've ever interviewed someone like in Hollywood like with that big of a name. So that was super cool. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all your kind comments. I meant to play more Parker Lewis stuff, but it kind of felt weird after a while bringing up the clips and just sitting there and staring at them. I wanted to talk with them, so it was like I'm sitting there talking to Parker Lewis. Oh my gosh, that's really all I had prepared for tonight. I really didn't have anything going on after that, but how about I need to do another live stream soon for my super chat last week of all the movies of all the favorite movies in the 80s. So I need to do that. Why don't we do that on Monday night or Tuesday? How did I get a hold of him? Actually, he followed me on X. And when he followed me on X, I sent him a DM and said, hey, I'd love for you to pop in on the live stream sometime, be on my channel. And there you go. Boom, bam, bing. He responded and said, sure. So there you have it. Yes, favorite movies of the 80s is a long list. We could probably do like a 5-hour live stream on that one. Thank you. Guys, have y'all seen my video on school? Boy, that was a fun one to make. Oh, goodness. Now I got to find some more 80s and 90s stars to bring on, right? It was super cool of him to do that. Super cool. Like, he's 53 years old. He looks like he's in his 30s. Am I wrong? He does. Very cool. I wasn't expecting him to get like so deep into his roles and technical about the craft. Like, that was really cool. That was really neat. That surprised me. That really surprised me. So I also was going to ask him about any pushback from the Ferris Bueller people about Parker Lewis. I didn't do it. Yay! 80s Child, $1.99 super sticker. Woohoo! Oh, thank you so much. Is Tootie still alive? Absolutely. I think she's on Real Housewives of Atlanta. Or she used to be. Kim Fields. Ooh, get Corey Feldman. That I can try, but he's a little he's a little, he's been through it. Let's just put it that way. He's been through it. Oh, man. Thank you. You know, like I said, this was like my first interview I've done in this way and format, and it feels weird. Like I don't know where to look. I don't know how to pace it out. So I'm glad that it worked out well. I'm glad you guys liked it. Oh, thank you so much, Gemini Gypsy 499. Love you, Nat. Great interview. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. I guess we should get Bud Bundy, his bestie. I didn't realize they were such besties. Like they are like lifelong friends, and they've worked together a lot. And I mean, I knew of Starving, but I didn't realize that they were like in real life that close. But they are. They are. Oh. Looks like Corey Feldman is the get that everybody wants. You don't see any activity on my Twitter after 2017. Is that for me? I just started my so-called Gen X Life X account like maybe a year and a half ago, and it's under my so-called Gen X Life. Here, I'll even bring it up so you can see it. Now, here's the thing about that, though, guys. I keep politics off of this channel, but I talk politics on X. And so just be warned. But yes, I am there. So let's see. I'll bring it up so you can see me. Share screen. There I am. It's at Gen X Life 77 is the... But you've been warned, there's politics over there. I keep politics off of this channel completely. So, you know, I want to keep all that stuff separated out. I get a little salty over there sometimes. That's all I'm saying. Oh, honestly, I forgot I had a personal Twitter. I forgot all. I don't even remember it. Oh gosh. Let's see. Yeah, it is. You know, I want this place to be my nostalgia place. You know, the fun place. Because there's this, and I'm honestly like, I'm kind of over politics. I'm kind of over it. I just want to. I don't even want to like think about it anymore. It's just overwhelming. So anyway, let's see. That's kind of where I'm at this point. That's kind of where I'm at. Oh man. Let's see. I had some things I wanted to show you guys, but I just wasn't prepped for it because I thought we would just talk to Corin. Let's see. Do I have anything fun to show you all tonight? Go to my bookmarks. I'm always saving some good stuff. Oh, I thought this was pretty cool. I saved this earlier. Oh yeah, we need to bring this stuff up. Okay, let's bring up my X bookmarks. Boop. So first of all, this is colorized footage from like 1901 or like, you know, over 100 years ago. And it's just kind of neat to look at this. Like it says, colorized footage is like a time machine. I find this fascinating. This is from 1901 and it's been colorized. Isn't that fascinating? So that's 1901, and then we have, whoops. Well, where did it go? There's a whole thread, and it was really neat. This is from 1899, one of the first cat clips ever. It's called Little Girl and Cat by the Lumiere Brothers. 1899. And it's been restored and colorized. Look at that. How cool is that? Isn't that fascinating? The kitty. Oh, there he is now. Oh my gosh. I just found it. I think it's so neat. Kitty. Now, this one's from Jerusalem in April of 1897. Isn't that nuts? 1897. Yes, that was an OG cat video. 128 years ago. This is just insane. I find that fascinating. Let's see, there was a few others. Berlin after World War II, July of 1945. Let's go back because I'm going to watch the whole thing here. Here's Denmark, 1902. He's probably staring at the camera being like, what? All right, so anyway, that was kind of neat. The fun things you can find on X. This is one that I wanted to talk about. The woman convicted of killing Tejano music legend Selena Quintanilla Perez has been denied parole. Woohoo! After spending decades behind bars for fatally shooting the young singer at a Texas motel in 1995, the state's parole board announced Thursday. So I wanted to celebrate that. I hope that woman dies in jail. And I'm not usually one that, is super awesome about incarceration. I'm not big on all that, but she deserves to rot. I can't even remember the woman's name. I don't want to remember her name, but I know that she shot Selena at the Comfort Inn in Waco. I was in Waco at Baylor University about 6 months after she died. Or not in Waco, in San Antonio. I wasn't in Waco. I went to the hotel. I went down to San Antonio in the Riverwalk, and they had a big old thing, like a memorial for Selena because it had been so recent. But anyway, the bitch got denied. Like, how can you just go shoot somebody that's 22 years old? Like, what a... All right, anyways. Did I get a super chat? I did. The Lumiere brothers, they did Train Pulls into a Station, 1896, which is sort of the world's first horror film. The Willmeister, $5. Thank you so much. Yeah, the Lumiere brothers were like pioneers in film, right? I mean, it's a little bit before my time, but if I remember correctly. Did y'all see the Rogan with the lady and the vaccines? Woo! Controversial. So we're not going to go down there. Oh, look at here. I used this paper right here as the background for my school video that I posted yesterday. I love it. I wanted to make all of my graphics for that video in cursive, but I thought, well, people might not be able to read it, so I put it all in block letters. Yolanda, that's that bitch's name. And yes, you are right. And I completely agree with this. Such a terrible loss. Selena would have been up there with Madonna, Janet, and Paula. I completely agree. And I also believe that Jennifer Lopez would have never been famous. I mean, I know that J-Lo was doing the Fly Girl and all that stuff on in living color, but if she wouldn't have starred in the Selena movie and taken over that kind of niche in the Tejano music, Mexican American music scene, yeah, I don't think J-Lo would have had an avenue. I think Selena would have been the star. Another $5. The Willmeister, thank you. The Wanda Saldivar. Yeah, news is worth celebrating, yes. But even more importantly, today is Selena's 30th anniversary. Oh, that's great. I wish I could sit here and play her music on this. I still have her CD. The one that she released in the United States. That has Dreaming of You, which was so good. R.I.P. Selena. Now, J-Lo did do really well playing Selena in the movie, but like I said, if Selena would have never died, I don't think J-Lo would have been famous. I almost made a video titled "J-Lo Had to Die," or "Selena Had to Die for J-Lo to be famous" was going to be the title of it, but I decided not to. Yep, and Dreaming of You is a banger. Agreed. Oh, it makes me tear up almost, like anytime I hear it. I mean, it came out right when she died, so. Okay. This I wanted to show you guys if you have not seen it. Yeah, Bitty Bitty Bum Bum is definitely a signature song. All right. You guys, did you know that they did a Spider-Man TV series in Japan back in the 70s? Because if you didn't know that, well, I'm here to tell you that they did, and you need to see this. Let's all have some fun. Let's turn it up first. Here we go. So this is Japanese Spider-Man. Yeah, I remember the American Spider-Man series too. It had the guy from Sound of Music. And I loved it. I think they might have. I think that might be how I knew this happened. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Nicholas Hammond. Friedrich for The Sound of Music. Is that supposed to, what's the name of that thing? Is that, who is that supposed to be? Spider strings. Ooh, rage began to well up. He became angry. Would we not like him when he's angry? Amazing. Ooh. Actually, the Electric Company was the first time Spider-Man was on screen in the United States. I don't know if that's supposed to be the thing or not. That's kind of where my head went, but it doesn't make much sense. Honestly, I'd rather watch this these days than the MCU. We've gone full circle. I'm back to bad 70s sci-fi superheroes. Hey, I could sit all day and watch the 70s version of Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk all day long and twice on Sunday, and Wonder Woman. All that stuff was great. You're welcome for that one. Oh, man. Let's see. Guys, I'm going to do a video soon about how ESPN was amazing in the 90s. It's coming. It's coming. I'm just telling you. Ooh, another $10 from the Willmeister. You're spoiling me. I did know about the Japanese Spider-Man TV series. It was on at the same time as the American live-action series. It's also the reason we got Spider-Man or Superman Spider-Man comic instead of movie. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. Thank you for that comment. Thank you for the $10. I super appreciate it. Yeah, apparently there was a brief talk about a collaboration between the 70s Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk at the time. Bill Bixby was actually interested in doing that. And Kenneth Johnson was wanting to do a crossover between the two characters, but it just never happened. But yeah, I'm going to do a video about ESPN in the 90s. And of course, I'm going to do a video about MTV very soon. Very, very soon. You didn't know the Bionic Woman was a 70s show? What? Her and the $6 million. She was a spinoff of the $6 Million Man. You see Willie Stargell and the Pirates. What is that? This is when he guest starred on the Baseball Bunch. I'm making a video, another video if you don't remember these shows, unless you're Gen X, and I'm doing an 80s morning show version. And one of these is going to be Baseball Bunch. So this is from that. Let's watch Johnny Bench and Willie Stargell.
I want to introduce you to a friend of mine that has a lot to teach you. Meet Willie Stargell, former Pittsburgh Pirate. I asked Willie to come by today because he not only knows a lot about playing baseball, but he also knows what it takes to win. The Pittsburgh Pirates were the only team Willie Stargell ever played for, and in his 21-year career, he helped lead the Bucs to 6 National League Eastern Division titles and 2 World Championships. Because of their heavy hitting, the Pirates have long been known as the Lumber Company, and Willie was the chairman of the board. He was named captain of the Pirates in 1972, taking over from the great Roberto Clemente. Willie was respected for his gentle spirit as well as his power at the plate, which struck fear in the hearts of the National League pitchers. He was the National League's co-MVP in 1979 and also won MVP honors in the playoffs and World Series that year. Willie's crowning moment came in the 7th game of the 1979 series against Baltimore when his 6th inning home run won the game and the championship for Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Willie retired after the 1982
Pirates
season,
have never been a
closing
good
one of the great
team
careers
during my baseball life.
Hey, Willie, how come the Pirates have those stars on their caps? No other team wears them.
Well, Debbie, a few years ago, I decided to give stars to my teammates who did something exceptional on the ball field. Now, anytime you have a winning team, it takes a lot of little things to make up a winner. And when one of my teammates did something exceptional, I gave him a star.
Wow, that's neat. Can I have one? Yeah, me too.
Hold on, chicken. I just don't give these stars away. You have to earn them.
Gotta earn them. We don't give stuff away around here. Gen X doesn't get stuff given to them. Yes, I talked about remote control in my game show video that I did an eon ago. But yeah, I'm going to do a whole video about all those shows. Remote Control, Singled Out, TRL, what was Yo MTV Raps. Yes. This week in baseball. Mel Allen. Legendary voice. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but I was a massive baseball fan in the 80s, 90s. Actually, I watched or listened to every St. Louis Cardinals game between like 1985 and 2000, I'd say 18, 19. I was obsessed with Cardinal baseball. I used to have Trapper Keepers full of I would keep score of every game in a notebook in my Trapper Keeper, and I would listen to the games or watch the games on TV, and I would keep score of every game. And so I knew all the statistics of the Cardinals like immediately with one of my superpowers. How many home runs does Jack Clark have, or how many errors does Ozzie Smith have? I knew. How many wins does John Tudor have? I knew. Anyways. Oh, you guys are loving this MTV stuff. Yeah. Liquid Television, The Grind, MTV Cribs. Jon Stewart had a show, The Jon Stewart Show, that was on MTV. Oh, man. Let's see. I'm a big Adam Scott fan as well. I love I don't think there's an Adam Scott show or movie that I don't love. And he was on Kimmel the other night, and they showed his very first acting job. Let's watch it. No, they're going to copyright strike me, so no. Oh, this is one I'm thinking about making a video on. Boomers pulled the ladder up after them. Intergenerational wealth. Share of national wealth owned by each generation. Baby boomers own 55% of the national wealth. Generation X, 15%. Millennials, 3%. I know it's like a serious video, but wow. So is anybody going to get an inheritance when their boomer parents or grandparents die? That's a terrible thing for me to say. Oh, yes, the contest, the Batmobile. Remember there was a one for a VJ, and a guy won and became an MTV VJ, and he was like really, I think his name was Jesse. He was really tall and had crazy hair. He was, oh, Chris. Joe McGrain was like my first, him and Annie Van Slyke were like my two major crushes. In love with Joe McGrain, like in love. He was my everything as a 12-year-old girl. Oh, the Batemans. Look at that. Random picture with a horse. Well, your boomer mom was smart. If you're going to buy anything, Berkshire would be the right thing to buy. The female VJ with red hair. There was Julie Brown. J is for, oh, they're Tabitha Soren. Tabitha Soren. Oh my gosh, that trade absolutely crushed me when they traded Andy Van Slyke to the Pirates. Crushed me. Man, I could do a whole like series of videos on MTV. There's so much stuff to talk about. Maybe I should. I swear, if I had more hours in the day and more like ability to make videos faster, I could make so many different kinds of videos. Yes, Kurt Loder told me Tupac died. He also told me that Kurt Cobain died. I got all of that from Kurt Loder. And he's a boomer. I can see that. I can see that for an Expos fan. I really wish that a team would move back to Montreal and the Expos would come back. They had the best gear, the best logos. Yeah, Kurt Loder was the dad of MTV. Oh. Oh, here we go. Did y'all see this? Will Smith and Tatiana Ali came back together for a little fun 10-second clip. Here we go.
when you're spending every day on your.
Did y'all catch that? Do it again. Let's slow it down. There's the original photo from 1992. And there they are now. Boy, Tatiana Ali looks fantastic, does she not? She almost looks the same. 30 years. Impressive, am I right? I'm sorry. 2006, we got you good. Sorry, Tigers. But the Tigers, that was White Sox. Tigers was, when did we play? What was it? Was it 84 when they lost the world? What? I know the Tigers were big back in the 80s. Detroit. There was a Newsweek issue with a cover story about Generation X. Tabitha was one of the featured Gen Xers. First time I had heard of it. Yes, I actually showed that in my video. What is Generation X? It's complicated. I showed that Newsweek cover in that article. Talked about it a little bit. Sure did. Tigers beat San Diego in '84. That's what it was. I knew. Was that the last time they were in the World Series? When was the last time Detroit was in the World Series? Same. I liked him like when he first hit the scene when it was DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and then I liked like the first couple of seasons of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but I never got why he became this big movie star. He was fun in Men in Black and things, but like I never got the hype either. Did you know that he turned down the role of Neo in The Matrix? Turned it down. It was offered to him. He did it. He turned it down to play, to star in the movie Wild Wild West with Kevin Kline. And then the Neo role went to Keanu Reeves. Yeah, Independence Day is good. I mean, it's fun, but it's like, to me, it's not about Will Smith. It's about so many other things, right? It's about President Bill Pullman and, Randy Quaid. Oh my gosh. Will Meister, you're spoiling me and I love it. $10 super chat. Okay, speaking of 70s Wonder Woman, did you know that Kathy Lee Crosby played her in 1974 movie? Yes. A young Linda Carter auditioned, but didn't get the part until Crosby turned down the second pilot movie. Yes, it was like a completely different kind of type character. She had a different outfit, and of course, Kathy Lee Crosby was blonde. It was a totally different kind of character. I could do a whole video about 70s Wonder Woman, because not only did Crosby play her in the movie, then Linda Carter got the role for the TV show, but then they changed the TV show halfway through. In the first season, it was set in the 1940s during World War II. And then after that, they jumped into the 1970s, like a current day type of a show. Yes, Linda Carter is stunning. She was a beautiful woman in the 70s. Her and Jacqueline Smith and Farrah Fawcett, like those are the three that were just like, wow, Let's see. Have y'all seen this stuff about the pyramids? Do we think that's real? I don't know. We'll see. I'm skeptical. But it's an interesting theory. It's an interesting thing. Oh. Did you all watch Heart to Heart growing up? Because I did. Loved it. It was one of my mom's favorite shows because she loved Robert Wagner. And funny enough, she later married a man named Robert Wagner. And he's the greatest guy ever in the history of life. All right. So, if you loved Heart to Heart as much as I did, here is a recreation of the opening by Adam Scott and Amy Poehler. There's a side-by-side here, so you can see the original opening and then what Amy Poehler and Adam Scott did. Here we go. This made me laugh.
This is my boss, Jonathan Hart, a self-made millionaire. He's quite a guy. This is Mrs. H. She's gorgeous. She's one lady who knows how to take care of herself.
I love.
By the way, my name's Max. I take care of both of them, which ain't easy. Because when they met, it was murder.
That's brilliant right there. It doesn't get any better than that, right? Stan Musial. End of discussion. Same. I wear my Wonder Woman underoos so often. I have pictures of myself in them. Amazing. I saw. Oh yeah, Erin Gray. She was also from Buck Rogers, right? Was she in Buck Rogers? Yeah. She had that spandex suit on. She looked incredible. Hi, Nicole. I remember the show Just the 10 of Us. I made a video about you don't remember these shows unless you're Gen X. It's called the Primetime Edition. And I talk about Just the 10 of Us quite a bit. It was a spinoff of Growing Pains. Bill Kirchenbauer played the Coach Lubbock from Mike and Carol Seavers High School. And he gets fired and he gets a job in California and they takes his family across the country and Just the 10 of Us. Funny story, they canceled it after 3 seasons and because they didn't want a show, because it was kind of an edgy show for the time. It was like a more edgy sitcom. If you watch it, it was a little more spicy and things. And so they canceled it for another show that lasted like 10 episodes. And then they regretted canceling Just the 10 of Us, but it was too late to bring back the cast and do it again. So it only got 3 seasons. Yep. Oh yeah. The sisters were what made the show, right? Oh, really? I thought he was such a great dad character. Oh, that's what it was. ABC wanted the entire TGIF lineup to be a Miller Boyett production. That is correct. So they brought in a Miller Boyett show, and it lasted like 10, 12 episodes. Yes. Thank you, Higgy04. Actually, 3 of the sisters. Heather Langenkamp was obviously the star of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but then the blonde and the redhead, Jamie and Brooke Thieist and Jamie, what's Jamie's last name? They were in some of the sequels. I can't think of her name. Jamie Luner and Brooke Thieist. He really was. He was a great guy. Like, I really enjoyed talking to him. Enjoyed it. Oh, there's that cursive I was talking about in my most recent video. I can still write it all. I still write in cursive. Do y'all still write in cursive? Let's see. Oh, if you guys love that that Heart to Heart parody, do you remember when Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show used to be really funny, like 10 years ago? And he used to do these parodies with Paul Rudd. Hold on. And there's one that just was my favorite thing ever. And they remade the video King of Wishful Thinking. This is so funny. All right. I'm probably going to have to cut this out for the replay because I'm probably going to get hit with copyright for this, but I want you guys to see it. If you haven't seen this, this is so great. Hold on. It's one of my favorite things. Yay! You still writing cursive. Yay! Here we go. I'm telling you, Gen Xers make the best comedy. Here we go.
I don't need to fall at your feet just 'cause you cut me to the bone. And I won't miss the way that you kiss me. We were never carved in stone.
I love the way Paul Rudd commits to this. It's incredible. Here we go.
If I don't listen to the talk of the town, then maybe I can fool myself. I'll get over you. I know I will. I'll pretend my ship's not sinking, and I'll tell myself I'm over you, 'cause I'm the king of wishful thinking.
Yes.
I am the king of wishful thinking. I refuse to give in to my blues. That's not how it's gonna be. And I deny the tears in my eyes. I don't wanna let you see that you have made a hole in my heart. And now I've got to fool myself. I'll get over you. I know I will. I'll pretend my ship's not sinking, and I tell myself I'm over you, 'cause I'm the king of wishful thinking. I know I will. I'll pretend my ship's not sinking, and I'll tell myself I'm over you, 'cause I'm the king of wishful thinking. If I don't listen to the talk of the town, then maybe I can fool myself. I'll get over you. I know I will. I'll pretend my ship's not sinking, and I'll tell myself
I probably should pause this for a second so the live stream doesn't get stopped.
I'm over you, 'cause I'm the king of wishful thinking. I'm the king of wishful thinking. I'm over you. I know I will. You made a hole in my heart, but I won't shed a tear for you. I'll be the king of wishful thinking. I'll get over you. I'll pretend my heart still beats you. 'Cause I've got to know what to do for you. I'm the king of wishful thinking.
So good. So very, very good. I actually was a big Jimmy Fallon fan back in the late 90s and early 2000s. He came to Lawrence to do a stand-up show at KU like in 97, like the summer before he got cast on Saturday Night Live. And it was like in a small club of like, it was on campus. And there was only like 50 people there maybe. So I got to meet him then and became a fan, and then he was on SNL the next year. And so I loved him on SNL. I loved the characters that he did, even though he laughed his way through most of them. And then in 2003, he went on a stand-up tour around the country, and I followed him for like 2 months and went to a bunch of different shows. I got pictures of myself with him, and he autographed his book that he wrote. I need to find all that stuff, break it out, and show it. Yay! I will start singing all the time. I can't help it. Can't help it. Oh, yes, Shannon. I talked about Rags to Riches in my show. You don't remember these shows unless you're Gen X, the primetime edition. That was the first show I talked about. Absolutely obsessed with that show. Oh my God. First movie I saw Julia Roberts in was Still Magnolias when my mom made me watch it with her. Talk about bawling her eyes out. Yes. Okay. Here's my Still Magnolias story. It just came out on video, and my mom rented it to watch with. It was like Thanksgiving, or it was a holiday time because my grandma was there, and it was like a girl thing. We were all going to watch Still Magnolias together, right? And we sit down and we push play, and the first thing my mom says when the movie starts is, when we see Julia Roberts, I think she dies in this. What? Thanks, Mom. But yeah, Still Magnolias is based on a true story. The script and the book was written by Shelby, the girl. Well, Shelby wasn't her name. Her name was Susan, I think. Written by her brother. And so her brother wrote the play and the movie script. And so that was based on a true story, if y'all didn't know. Favorite Michael Jackson album? Probably, well, I mean, Thriller is in a league of its own, but probably History, just because it was like a greatest hits and had new music on it. Had like Scream, and I still have it. It's a double disc. But yeah, probably History, because it had a lot of his best 80s stuff and then his stuff from the 90s. Let's see. Music request, In Your Room. Great song. I love it in your room at night. You're the only one that gets through to me. Yes. I wish I could play music. I wish we could sit here and like jam out to music on these during these live streams. Now, come on. Yeah, she ruined the movie, but I'm not ruining it for everybody else. That movie's 35, almost 40 years old. So, yeah, right? Dale, hold on, buddy. I literally have that written on a pillow, stitched on a pillow. I think my mom actually made her, my grandma. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, come sit by me. Oh, man. All right, Dale's going nuts. Guys, I've been hanging out with you for a couple hours. This has been so much fun. Thank you all for hanging out with me. We're going to do it again next week. I'm not sure what night yet, but look for the post on the community page about when I will do my next live stream. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you for sitting. I should have had you guys ask Corin questions, and I'm really, really sorry that I did not do that. I just got so, focused on trying to get through everything and making sure I didn't mess anything up that I did not go to you guys for questions. And I'm really sorry about that. Alrighty, let's see. Anything else? All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and I will see y'all next week. I'm going to have a new video coming out in the next couple of days about movies based on a true story that happened in the 1970s. So it's called Based on a 70s True Story. Thank you guys for all hanging out with me. Please watch my school video if you haven't already. Send it to your friends. Reminisce. Thank you guys for all your wonderful comments, and I will see you all later. Okay, bye.